Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Better with me, Charlotte Wagerhall. You can also find me on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as Skinny Schedule. On today's show, we have Matt Briggs. Matt Briggs lost a whopping 17.5 stone in just 2 years. He went on to run 4 marathons, get crowned greatest loser, and now he dedicates his life to helping others change theirs and sharing that knowledge and wisdom. You might notice in today's episode that I've changed sides if you've watched my previous episodes. One of my favourite ones is talking about how to get a good picture. And according to the experts in that episode, my left side is my stronger side. So I thought I'd try it out. So if you guys want to find out how to get your best picture and look your best, check that episode out. So that's with Rough Reed Photography and how to get a great picture. Now, without further ado, welcome Matt to the show. So a big welcome, Matt. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I first discovered your story when I went on my training to be a Slimming World consultant. You were on the board outside the building. I am. And it was your story always really resonated with me because I could identify with a lot of the stuff you said, but my weight loss journey wasn't as long. You know, I still can't comprehend how you did that because you've lost 17.5 stone. Yeah. And you did that in 2 years, which just blows my mind. So I always think it's important to go back to the start. So were you big like myself? Like I was quite big when I was a child. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, so as a young kid, I was thin. There's pictures of me like on summer holidays in like Speedos and you can see ribs. But as I went sort of going into primary school and sort of the late years and going to secondary school, I was just getting bigger and bigger. So one of the memories I still have is when I was in Cub Scouts, my mum had to have my shorts specially made by a seamstress because kids' shorts weren't big enough and adult shorts were more like clots. So we had to go and have them specially made. And my weight just used to went up and up from sort of there, really. It's kind of kept controlled-ish because my parents kept me fairly active growing up, sort of playing squash and swimming and stuff like that. But it was still always sort of sneaking up a little bit.
So what was it? Were your whole family sort of, it's really hard to say about, it sounded offensive. Were your whole family into unhealthy eating? Was it that you had money and you went to the shops? What was it, do you think, at a younger age?
No, I mean, at a younger age, my mum was very much for healthy eating. It was always home-cooked generally stuff. My mum was perpetually like a size 8 or a 10. She was an air hostess in the 70s, sort of height of flight, wow. Pan Am, British Airways, Concorde, that sort of thing. So there was a look, and she was always the same size. Whereas my dad's side of the family tend to always be slightly bigger, my dad was born in a pub, so I think that probably starts everything from there, but never sort of unhealthy weight with it all. I think one of my problems, and when I look back, is the key thing was I had access to food all the time because my parents had their own businesses, ran like a gift shop in York and they sold sweets and stuff. And on like a weekend, me and my sister were left upstairs whilst they were working downstairs, and it's like, I'll just help myself.
Yeah, and then it's quite addictive, isn't it? I mean, they're now showing in studies that scanning the brain that sugar is addictive, if not more addictive than like crack cocaine. So actually, it is, yeah. That is where it starts, isn't it?
And you get to chew instead of snorting it, so it's so much better.
I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't either, but I wouldn't snort cocoa powder.
Well, I'm sure we'll try it at uni at some point. But, so you were always quite big, sort of like growing up. What was the real catalyst where it sort of went from just being, I don't know if you ever got called like I did, like you're just chubby, it's just puppy fat, you're just big boned. And then where did it start sort of really expanding and really? So
growing up, I mean, I was always tried to be fairly independent. So I had my own like paper round from the age of like 13 or so. So I always had my own money as well. So I was able to buy like sweets and stuff like that. My thing is a sweet tooth. I'm from York. You smell chocolate on the air every day.
Do. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's not always.
Yeah, you're true.
But from that sort of point, because I was able to get access to food all the time, with my weight sort of creeping up from there. In school, I mean, my nickname in school, it was Big Boy Briggs because I was the biggest out of the lot of them. My mum would struggle to get me like uniforms and stuff. She hated taking me shoe shopping, I remember, because my feet were like a size 12 and wide. Oddly, since losing weight, my feet shrunk.
They do, mine did as well, yeah.
It's like 2 sizes down and I can buy shoes everywhere now. But in school, it's obviously just, I was bullied, but not massively, because I was always that larger than life character.
I was going to say, did you sort of impersonate, right, if I'm going to be Big Boy Briggs, I'm Big Boy Briggs. And were you sort of like that?
I wasn't tough, like, I wasn't like, be scared of me, but I had a good network of friends. I've always been very sort of sociable with people. So I never really got into
the class
much.
Clown.
Yeah. Always, you are. When you're bigger, you always tend to be the first person that makes a joke.
Yeah.
If you've made it before anybody else,
you're
in a much safer place. I only remember one time that someone pushed my buttons, and what did he call me? He called me Roland from Grange Hill. So I pushed him. It just happened to be a concrete lamppost on the other side of his face. I didn't realise at the time, but I had to write a letter home to his mum apologising for the fact that he'd bullied me and had pushed him away, which seemed a bit harsh at the time. But it's one of those things. So my weight just went up and up. But the biggest catalyst for it sort of dramatically increasing was my mum's health. So when I was in like my late teens, my mum was diagnosed with MS. So she was, in a way, she was fairly lucky for a little bit because there's different stages of how the disease is, and she managed to live with it day to day quite easily. It just flare up around certain times of the year, depending on like weather especially. But then as I was sort of going into A-levels, when I went into A-levels, I wasn't still doing a paper round at 16, but again, my parents were self-employed, so it wasn't easy just to go and ask for money. So I got a job at a local retailer's after sixth form. So I'd go there 5 nights a week and do like 20 hours a week to have my own money for that. So again, I could still buy my own stuff. But because my mum was getting worse from that sort of point, sort of 16, 17, and she actually passed away a month before I turned 18, that final year, the final 2 years, she's got progressively worse. And then the final 6 months, she went from we're having like home carers and stuff like that to actually being hospitalised, and the disease just completely ravaging her to the point that obviously she just lost the battle with it all. And that was a massive sort of catalyst because my comfort has always been food, and unfortunately it just went into overdrive. Yeah, it's never an apple. It's always, for me, it's always a sweet tooth. Generally it's chocolate and stuff like that. They'll always reach for first and foremost. So it went on from there, but I know for myself what I then did for the next 10 years, pretty much, because about another 10 years before then joined Slimming World, was all my attention pretty much went on everything else.
Yeah, so you didn't really deal with the trauma of what had happened.
No, I mean, I remember, I've got it at home, I have no problem sharing it, but because when she died, it was that year, it was a week before Mother's Day. So I'd already bought a present, I was going to do a nice frame with like pictures of the family and stuff in it, and I'd bought a card. And then when she passed away, the frame I've got, it's got pictures of her in it. It goes in the house I live in.
Make me well up.
Don't cry. Have you got waterproof on?
No, I haven't, but I will next time.
Cry. And then I still have the card. So I wrote in the card, and everything I wasn't able to say at the time to her, I put down in the card. And I can go back to that now, and it's something I reflect back to sort of every time I'm sort of certain times a year and stuff like that. I can see that that's what I did. Even at the time, I make sure I look after my dad and my sister, and that's where my attention went. It went on my family, went on my friends, went on my work. I did fairly well at my job at the time and sort of worked my way up.
And so meanwhile, your weight was just
kept sort of sneaking up bit by bit. On average, probably about, even at say sort of when I was 18, I remember going to our Leavers Ball. I had to go and get a suit and rent a suit for it. And they had to, obviously suits are generally a standard size top to bottom.
Yeah.
I had to have the size top that I had to get, and they wouldn't give me a separate pair of trousers. The trousers were then too big, but because my top was so big. So I've always been I sound like a girl, more chest heavy. But just the way I'm proportioned, and I had to wear this belt, and even the trousers then were like a size 48 odd waist or something like that. And I got to the point I got to like 56-inch waist. So it was just one of those sort of things always sort of flash back to you, and things like, I think that you just remember those weirdest things that affected you during your life. But my weight went from there. So I would have been probably around about 27. I have no idea. I never weighed myself at that age.
You don't, do you? At that age particularly. So block it out. It doesn't exist. Doesn't happen.
I was just big. But I must have put on average around about a stone a year for the next 10 years till I get to my starting weight.
And because it just, I mean, I've lost probably, I think from pictures, I reckon I've lost about 5 from the biggest, roughly. Can you remember what it was like being 17.5 stone heavier? Because the amount of pressure on your joints and just being able to do day-to-day activities, like what do you remember most about being that weight?
I think for me, the things I remember most is just how unfulfilled my life was. I literally got up, went to work, did what I have to do, came home. And that was kind of it. I still went to work. It wasn't like taking the time off work because of like health and stuff like that. I just, like, even if I went out, I only went out maybe once every 6 weeks, 8 weeks, if that.
You sort of exist, you don't live.
No, that was it. You just
exist.
I didn't have the option just to hang around at home and do nothing. I still had to go to work. I still had to do my job. I still had to sort of make sure I was still there for the people, my friends and my family and stuff like that. There was nothing, really anything else.
And did you, like, I remember when I was at my biggest, like my constant thoughts were sort of like food and like what the next meal was going to be, what the next treat was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was terrible in terms of eating. I was the pickiest eater you've ever met in your life. And an awful lot of time I didn't eat. So it's one of those things, you're not eating in front of people.
Yes,
I'd skip meals left, right and centre.
In front of people?
Yeah, so if I was at work, about coming to work, like if you had anything breakfast, I had something on my way in. Yeah. I'd probably, the only time I ever did get anything on the way in is probably like payday week. I'd get myself a croissant with my hot chocolate and cream and 6 sugars or whatever I'd put into it as well. But I literally lived on basically nothing during the day. And then I'd come home because there's at that point when my dad would still be at work, nobody else in the house. Obviously, that sort of age, my dad had sort of remarried, but people were always at their other jobs, so I could just eat in secret.
Yeah.
Always have done. But you just eat everything you could.
I think when you're bigger as well, there's a lot of shame if you do eat. Like, people make comments, don't they? Even if you're eating something healthily, if you're bigger, it's like, you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah, they'll make a comment.
Then if you're eating something bad, should you be eating that? People feel very quick to comment on that. And what was it sort of like physically, how did it feel? Because I know for me, you might not have got that, but chub rub.
Yeah.
One of the worst things ever.
Chub rubs, the rubs are like, especially between your legs and stuff like that. The best bit is obviously there's loads of people still in my life that know me from before, and they're the ones that tell me things. So like where I worked in the shop I worked in York, to go to the stock rooms up the stairs. So when I first started, one of the girls I worked with, she was like, after I lost weight, she said to me, you know when you used to go up the stairs before, it took you ages. One step at a time, you get to the top, you'd be out of breath. And she turned to me one day and she goes, but you've just leaped up them. Literally a couple of steps at a time, didn't even think to even breathe, and you've done it. And my dad used to say, I'd only go up and down the stairs at home to go to bed. Wouldn't make any extra trips if I didn't have to, because it would literally leave me out of breath going up the stairs. But I don't really remember that sort of aspect of it. I used to use smoking as a way not to eat. My stepmom reminded me, before I sort of decided to lose weight, I used to get up in the morning, have a cup of tea. I don't drink tea anymore, purely for the fact I used to put 8 teaspoons of sugar in a cup of tea. 8
teaspoons?
I'm not measured, so probably more like 16.
8?
Yeah, so it's kind of like
that is a sweet tooth, isn't it? Yeah, that's proper sludge.
But I used to have that and chain smoke cigarettes like 2 or 3 in the morning, because that would suppress my appetite. Or so I thought. Just ate later instead.
Yeah, wow.
But again, these are things that people tell you afterwards.
Isn't that funny? I think you do sort of block some of it out. I mean, I think I do. I don't remember. There's bits that are coming back in stages. It's almost like trauma, isn't it? You sort of block stuff out, and then over the years, things start.
You just remember certain things every now and again. I mean, I'm lucky. The only health complication I got left with after being overweight was sciatica, but that came about being so large. It first went, literally I sat down in a chair, like sort of normal level, and had to stand up to serve somebody. And within 30 seconds, I was back on the floor, because it just literally just twanged, and because of my size. But I worked in a shop, worked in a mobile phone company, which was in the corner of another shop and in the window of a high street. And I was stuck on the floor. And these people going, is he all right? And eventually they had to call an ambulance to give me gas and air to get me off the floor, because there was no way to pick me up. They needed extra support, and my back was in spasm at the same time. But that's the only thing, thankfully, I got left with after being overweight.
It's crazy, isn't it? And
it's still there now. When it comes back, I'm just like, that's because of that.
And like that's still sometimes when things like that happen, it's still not a motivator to lose weight. So what made you decide to start losing weight? That's the first one I wanted to ask.
The thing that started everything. So there is a picture of me and my dad from Christmas Day 2009, and we're not the kind of family that do pictures. When my mum was alive, yes. But then later on in the years, we don't, that sort of family, we don't sit around, we don't hug or anything like that. But there's a picture of me and my dad that my stepmom took, and she put it onto social media. And I came home that night that it had come on, and I'd seen this picture, and I'm just like, Jesus. Because in it, you can see him physically twice my dad's size. There's some other pictures from the day, and one actually came up on my phone the other day as a memory. And I'm stood over 4 people behind them, and I'm the width of the 4 people sat down on the sofa. But I saw this picture, and I was like, because don't get me wrong, I knew I was big. I was having to buy clothes, special off websites and stuff like that. I had to go to big and tall shops, and I'm at 6'2", I'm too short. So the standard size was 6'6". People comment on my old trousers and like, why is your crotch like so low down? Like, because I had to take the legs up by 6 inches because I'm too short for this shop. So I looked like I had really short legs all the time. But this picture came up, and I came home, and my dad was like, he could see that wasn't in myself. And he knew obviously the pictures are going up because he'd been with my stepmom. And he literally turned to me and goes, are you happy, Matthew? Are you happy like day to day in your life and what's going on and health and weight and stuff like that? I'm like, and I took a moment, and because I was taken aback, and so we're not that kind of family, but actually for my dad to pick up on it and recognise it, I took a second, and I was like, you know what, I'm not. I know something needs to change, I just don't know what at the moment. And my stepmom piped up, and she's like, well, I'm off to go back to Slimming World. I didn't actually really know what Slimming World was. I'll be honest, I'd never really clocked on that she'd ever done it before, or that's how the way that she even tried to cook and stuff like that, because I'd paid no interest in it whatsoever. I knew what the other one was. But again, I'd never tried it. But I said, and she was like, well, why don't you come with me? And I was just like, and it was a difficult point with money at that point in my life. And I was just like, I don't know if I can really afford it. And my dad piped up, and he's a Yorkshireman. So to get money out of a Yorkshireman is a big thing. And he turned to me and goes, well, I'll make a deal with you. I will pay for your first 12 weeks. June says you can buy 12 weeks in advance. If you don't lose 2 stone in that 12 weeks, you have to give me my money back. My first instinct was like, okay, I'm still going to have to save up this amount per week to be able to pay him back. So you automatically
started trying to think it's not going to work?
Yeah. Because the only thing, I think we'll discuss other things I've tried before in the past, but they never worked for any long time. I couldn't sort of stick to anything for
so
more than...
So in your head you already were like working out, how much am I going to have to pay back
I was
this?
in a point in my life where I wasn't as positive as I am now, and I was like, well, I'll give it a go, but it's probably not going to work, so I'm going to have to give him 50 quid back. And anyway, so I went down, terrified, because I'm like, oh my God, it's a room full of women, because this was like 9 years ago, so the men coming into Slimming World is even less then.
Yeah.
And I sat down and obviously got an introduction to it all, and started thinking, okay, I can eat some of this food. And I got weighed at the end, and I hadn't been weighed in years, because the scales at home, my weight was ERR, because that's all it'll display. Which
just
is great.
The scales at home at that size, aren't they? Yeah.
So I got on these scales, and it went up to, my starting weight was 31 stone, 3.5 pounds. And I'm stood there thinking, oh my God, I thought it was about 26 stone. And just somebody, I don't actually remember what he said to begin with, the guy that was looking after the classes tonight. He says, oh, it's okay, you can get off now. And I went home that week, and I was like, I'll just give it a go. And I just did it nice and simply, nothing too fancy, because I was a really, really picky eater. So it's just really simple food. I went back that first week, and I lost 12.5 pounds, and that was it. I was hooked. I've actually eaten 3 meals a day. I've enjoyed it. I've liked the food I've eaten, and I've lost weight, and nearly a stone in a week. My dad's not getting his money back, which he didn't for 7 years, until he joined as a member once he retired and wanted the same deal back. So I had to pay for him, and then he argued over week 1 versus week 13. So I'm too nice. I let him off.
That was one of the big questions that the audience wanted to know. It was like, why Slimming World? But it was purely the factor of like coincidental at that moment. That's really interesting. So what did you used to eat? Like, what was a day in the life of Matt Briggs?
A day in the life of Matt, a standard day, if I ate anything for breakfast, I'd be lucky.
But your tea with 8 sugars.
Yeah, my tea with 8 sugars and my chain smoking cigarettes. If it was payday week, I'd probably treat myself to something when I got into town, because I worked in a city centre. Lunch, if anything, again, you work in a high street, if you grabbed anything, it was like, I know there's a Cornish pasty shop down the road, so you might grab a panini or something like that. But again, I was trying to be frugal with money, so I wouldn't really spend an awful lot of work. And then it's when I got home, which was always because I'd generally then skip those 2 meals a day. So you'd feel thinner by 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm like, I must have lost at least a stone today. And then people would comment and think, oh, have you lost weight? I'm like, maybe. No, not really. I'm just not eating yet.
Yeah.
But then I get home. So my dad was at work, and my stepmom would be at work by the time I'd usually get home. We all work different shifts. So again, it'd be a little thing.
Would you cook a meal, or would you get a takeaway? Would you just...
If I had the money to get a takeaway, if not, it'd be like just convenience food, sort of just stuff you take out of the freezer, chuck in. I'd never actually generally... I could cook, but the times I actually cooked was very, very limited. And
would you just have like one ready meal lasagna, or would you have two, or like, what was on the plate? What sort of...
I don't know if I'd have two. I'd probably just eat the normal portion. It's just all the other stuff in between. So any money that I'd not spent during the day, I'd be buying like sweets and chocolates and crisps and stuff like that to eat instead. My big thing, I still remember, and I don't know how I could never even imagine doing it now, but there was always white bread in the house. And I would fold up white bread into quarters, pull out the doughy bit in the middle, crush up the crust, run the crust through butter, and eat that bit, and then eat the doughy bit just as it is because it was fun because it was doughy.
And how much of that would you eat?
I'd probably have at least 3 to 4 slices at a time. And then drink pints of milk. And then obviously now from joining SlimmingWorld, I discovered I've got a dairy intolerance. So the feeling of being sluggish and bloated all the time wasn't just down to how I ate and how I lived. Actually, it was down to the fact I was eating far too much dairy all the time, and it actually isn't good for me.
What's the most you remember eating in one sitting? Because I remember having like a huge family-sized bar of chocolate and feeling sick, but just continuing to eat it.
Is that it?
Well, there was probably other stuff as well, but I remember it being a big bar, and I remember at the end having this huge empty wrap and thinking, it was like you go under like a haze, and I remember thinking, have I really eaten all that?
When I used to get paid monthly, payday weeks were always the worst, and I clocked this as part of my SlimmingWorld journey because I did it for a bit when I first started. On a Tuesday of payday week, I'd get a text message from a certain pizza company reminding me it's 2 for 1, and I would get 2 pizzas. I would get a starter, so a garlic bread and some sort of meaty thing, and I would make sure I got some dessert, either just a tub of Ben & Jerry's or the tub of Ben & Jerry's and some cookies or whatever else. And before SlimmingWorld, full sugar Pepsi, and it get delivered. Now, after joining SlimmingWorld, every now and again I did do it, and I clocked on years later. Why did I have a 4 or 5 week cycle? I don't have Star Week. My Star Week was payday week because I worked out.
Really
and I used to,
isn't it?
A Tuesday of a payday week, I'd do the same. I'd actually order it while sat in group. So it was there when I got back, but I'd swapped to Diet Pepsi, so I saved myself some sins there. Almost virtuous. But worked out I was having like 325 sins on a Tuesday night once a month. I'm wondering why I didn't lose weight the next week.
It's grim. But a lot of us have done it. That's why I asked, because a lot of us have been there and done it. So we talked about, because you've tried losing weight before, and this was the time that you were successful. So what are some of the fads that you've tried? Because between us, we can probably have done every diet under the sun. What are some of the worst ones that you did? So
I never did anything sort of proper mainstream. So I never did any sort of the other weight loss clubs or paid for plans type thing. So a couple of different things I tried. My GP once put me on 1,000 calories a day. So at that point, I would have been around about 24 stone or so. And that's also like sort of like tracking apps. Yeah. Like that is literally, you would have had to get a book. This would have been back in around about 2003, 2004. Because I remember where I was working at the time when I do it. And the daftest things I've stuck in my head is 246 calories in a pint of semi-skim milk. Because I used to drink a pint of it every day. There's about 79 calories in a can of sugar-free Red Bull. I can't remember how many calories was in a bagel. I think a bagel was 179 calories. Is that it? I would have thought it would have been more. Or maybe that was just a cream cheese I put on top of it. I can't remember. But I got stuck eating the same stuff week in, week out, and I just got bored. Well, I'm surprised because you managed to do that for about 3 or 4 weeks. About 3 or 4 weeks. Pretty big achievement going from what you were eating to down to 1,000 for that. But literally, that was my shelf life for it. Yeah. And I stopped, and I had to go to the doctors once a week when I was doing it and get weighed again because again, how much did you lose, do you reckon? Barely anything. Yeah, and then you go back to your old eating ways because it's not sustainable. That's a big thing. Trying to do it 7 days a week was just unrealistic. There was that. I I'm going to save the worst to last.
Yeah, save the worst to last, yeah.
I tried just being more active, which was good. And actually, I lived really close to some baths in New York, and I used to go swimming on a regular basis. And I was fine in the water because people can't see you.
Yeah.
They only see your head. So that bit's fine. You just had this like proper Victorian pool, so you get changed in the side and changing room.
And then you can just quickly scuttle in.
Yeah, that mad dash.
Yeah.
Not too quickly because you jiggle too much.
Well, you can't move that quick either.
Yeah.
That's why.
But quickly, just get in the water as quickly and less movement as possible. And I did lose a bit of weight doing that, but I was still big. I was still having to shop in the big and tall shop. But I was feeling a little bit better about myself. But then I started commuting for work, and the extra hours that I was having to take to commute meant I couldn't be as active as I wanted to be.
Also, a lot of the time when people start becoming more active in whatever shape or form, they don't get the sort of the input and the output of the calories, so they sort of move a little bit more and expect huge weight loss.
So I was attempting to eat in a healthier way that I kind of knew would be healthier, but with no education. So I was just like, okay, well, I know what's good, I know what's bad, we all do, but I was literally just trying to wing it. Yeah. Just think, okay, if less fat here.
And it takes about a marathon and a half to burn about a pound, which I always tell people that because I think they think they pick up a Zumba class or two and will lose loads. It's barely anything. So, I mean, that's quite a nice way to try and lose.
Yeah.
I did a juice fast once for 3 days. It was awful. I like my jaw ached like from lack of chewing. It was a very strange sensation. I remember crying myself to sleep.
I've done that.
That was horrendous.
But you had to make all your own juices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
From
I spent a fortune as well.
Which it tasted all right, but I literally just missed chewing.
Yeah. Did you get the jaw ache though? I got like full on jaw ache because I hadn't used it.
I was just bored. I was just like, afterwards.
Yeah, so I did about 3 days, and on day 3, like my whole jaw, it was aching, and I think it was just like lack of use somehow. That's the only thing I can put it down to.
Seizing up,
yeah. Oh gosh, I've done the shakes as well.
Yeah. I tried some fast. Yeah. I had one. I didn't like it.
I tried several times. Like, Atkins. I remember trying to do that.
I remember somebody I
school.
worked with did Atkins, but that put me off because he was really bizarre. He went upstairs to eat his cheese and celery sticks. Was he allowed celery? I don't know. It's some random little pack up he ate upstairs in the toilet because he didn't want anybody else to see what he was eating. I was like, I don't want to try that one. That sounds a bit odd.
Oh God, I tried doing it when I was at school, and it's pretty hard to eat like steak and cheese and sausages and bacon. And like my mum and dad tried, bless them. Yeah. But I guess the real understanding, you can't translate that. And what was the other one that I did? Like the Special K diet. Did that again? Quite difficult when you're at school.
Targeted at women, so I never tried that one.
Never tried that one. That was quite enjoyable, except when you actually measure your portion of cereal. That's the most depressing thing ever, given that I was probably 11 times over the amount that I was meant to have originally. But again, that wasn't too bad. I mean, I've done pretty much all of them and all the fads, timed, restricted eating, which has got a lot of health benefits, but in terms of weight loss, it's pretty miserable. I used to go blue because I was so hungry and cold.
Terrifying.
It takes about 16 hours to get the real benefits of time restricted feeding. I know you can get a weight loss benefit from it, like the 5-2.
Yeah.
It's quite often not done correctly because it was originally done to enhance like your brain and reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. It's fascinating when you look into it, but you're meant to go for at least a 16-hour time frame without consuming any sort of food or like I think they do say black coffee, but you don't want to have any sort of stimulant.
Yeah.
And if you try and do that and consciously do that, it's all you can think about all day is food as well.
Which is all I think about anyway.
Well, yeah, I do, but it fuels it even more. And
even worse if you're not allowed to have it.
God, yeah, you fantasise about it. But so I think we have to share the worst one because I didn't realise till yesterday that you've done this as well.
Yeah, so I put this on a post the other day. The worst thing I ever tried was, and this was down to my GP trying to encourage me to lose weight because the screen, I remember the screen, always used to say when it came to like anything, there was a big flag up saying obesity. And I loved it after I lost weight because I avoided my GP for so long. I went back and went, you can edit that now. I'm not obese anymore. I've sorted myself out. But there was a time when they said, we want to help you. We want to try something. And it was a tablet called Xenical in its trial phase. And before it then got released as like Orlistat and Ally, which is a much lower dosage over the counter.
You can buy that over the counter.
But this tablet, it basically, and the biggest problem with it was not what it did, which was disgusting. We'll come into that. But literally the only advice my GP gave me as a guy that was like, again, must have been in the mid-20 stones, was eat less fat. No other dietary guidance whatsoever. And take this tablet. And
did they tell you the consequences of it as well?
So
did they sort of go through how it works and stuff?
How it works. So the tablet Xenical, you take this, you reduce the fat you're eating, but what the tablet would do would cause your body to pass out a third of that fat you're eating. Obviously, it didn't go into how it came out. You found that out after you started eating. So it literally come out in liquid form. and sometimes just where you weren't expecting it.
Yeah. And
that's a bit of wind. No, it's not. There's an oil slick in your pants now.
Yeah, and
you wouldn't go anywhere because you couldn't go use somebody else's toilet unless you knew they kept bleach and a brush next to it because... no. It's
really hard for people that haven't tried it. I mean, you were a bit older than me when you went on it.
I think I was sort of mid-20s.
Yeah, you see, I was still at school. I was about 14, 15, and I just, still to this day, I just think that is the most unethical thing to happen. And I also believe that's one of the reasons why I had such a dysfunctional relationship with food going forward with that, because being able to not control your bowels when you're at school is just the worst thing imaginable. And also, like yourself, I was sort of giving it, this is going to help you lose weight. There was no real information. There was no real guidance. My mum and dad tried their best.
Yeah.
But I remember like crying myself in my room, and I remember doing a GCSE paper, and I'd come off it. I refused to take it anymore. Like, I just couldn't live with it. And they had a question about orlistat in it, and I remember crying in my GCSE exam thinking, oh my God, like I can't.
Yeah.
It was just,
it was horrendous. A horrible thing.
Did you lose any weight on it? Because I don't think
I
really lost any weight on it.
a little bit, but that's because I got scared of eating anything fatty, because I'm like...
But isn't that so bad for your relationship with food, though, as well?
The only thing I remember, the only good thing I remember about it is I lived in a shared flat at the time, and all my other housemates were thin. And they knew I was trying to eat healthy, and they'd order things like pizzas and stuff like that. And I was older, so I was always like dad of the house. So they'd like leave me into like kitchen and stuff like that. So they left out all the pizzas, and they got to deliver and they're sorting themselves out and left the pizza in the kitchen. And they'd annoyed me. So I sprinkled the tablets over the top of the pizza and let them eat it.
Oh my God, what did they say?
They didn't know what the tablets did at the time. They found out the next day.
Because it is absolutely, like, I would not recommend it to anyone. I cannot believe that...
I don't think you can get it anymore, can you? I think we've taken it off the market.
I really hope they have, because I know the one that was commercially available was a lot lower dose, but I think the one we got was a third of what you'd eat. At least 30% of what you eat would be passed out, and I think they've reduced it down to like somewhere between 5 to 10%. So really minimal. But even then, the foods that you thought were healthier weren't even that bad. Could still have horrendous side effects. So I just don't think it's ethical at all. But anyway, that's a big debate in me and my whole horse for that. No, don't try that one. It is the worst one ever. So it went on. So you had this amazing success, and you went on to get crowned greatest loser, which was a funny name. 2012, and that led you to running marathons as well. You've run 4 of them now.
I've run 4, yep.
Which is just
it's mind-boggling to think. 9 years ago, I would have never even thought of running for anything. Running a bath would be enough.
Yeah.
But then a bath was... It's an odd thing. It's an odd thing as an adult. Running a bath as someone overweight, you never even think about running baths as an adult that's lost weight. You're thinking, this is expensive. The amount of water that goes in this bath now. Because you used to get away with like 3 inches in the bottom, and by the time you sat in it, all the water would go. It's one of those weirdest things. But to actually then have run... To run anyway was a thing, but to train myself to be able to run 26 miles and do it multiple times is just, it's weird. I mean, I don't.
Do you feel like you do that because of old Matt? Like, is this dedicated to like old Matt?
I'd love to do things that just prove that I can still do things I never thought I'd be capable of. So I've done, while I was doing that, I've done like Tough Mudder a few times. I've done obstacle course. I'll take on any sort of physical challenge I know I can give a go. The fact that I've deadlifted pretty much my old weight off the floor, and when you do it, you're just like, this is really weird. I remember when I first started going to the gym and building in body magic, as we call it, some of all those exercises we prefer, and I tried in the gym to lift maybe even what I'd lost, just like on a machine that was like more counterlever, so it was a bit more support to it. I'm just like, I can't even move it. It's the weirdest thing what your body is actually capable of, what you can put it through. I've put it through the worst part of it, and lucky to escape with barely any damage to it, but I've then been able to show that, you know what, this is what I can still do now.
It's amazing, because there's so many different ways we can go with this, and what I'll go into next, and one of the consequences obviously of losing weight is loose skin, and actually that's always the question that you get asked. I know the audience wanted to know as well.
Yeah.
Do you have loose skin? How do you deal with it? What are your top tips maybe for bringing it in?
So in terms of loose skin, I do have some. I'm human like anybody else. As somebody that's gone from a massive weight to a much more healthier weight. When I first lost the weight, so within the first year I lost like 10 stone, I started becoming a little bit more active. So for me, it was just I parked a mile away from work. I started walking in. and I'd still turn up red-faced, but it was some a step going forward. I remember years later when I had to do it, and I ran to work in like 5-10 minutes and didn't even bat an eyelid doing it because I was just running late. But I started from there, build it up slowly, bit by bit. And I've been doing, so people are like, oh, do you want to go for surgery and stuff like that? I'm like, if I have to, I'll consider it in the future. But it took me 27 years to get to my starting weight. It might take me 27 years to change all habits and behaviour, but I'm prepared to put in that same sort of timescale into changing my body.
Yeah.
So over the years, I mean, I've been building my exercise and activity levels up now over the years and doing different things, and I've seen my body change. We were sort of saying earlier, I've kind of regret not taking pictures before.
Yeah, we all do that.
I just have pictures from like more recently and I can see the changes. But things like my legs when I used to go to the gym, I'd always have like compression shorts underneath my shorts because I didn't like my thighs, and that's where there used to be excess skin. But I've noticed over time, actually, that's reduced.
Yeah.
And I'll quite happily rock up in the gym now, like literally like running shorts. I can't wear standard shorts because my thighs are too big from used to carrying 30 odd stone around, and I split them once. I'm like, okay, I'll just wear it running. Got a little bit wider on them. But I'll rock up in them.
So it can, and that's a big thing, isn't it? It can go in for exercise and time as well. You know, you don't necessarily have to go
It's the time, and people want everything instantly.
Yeah.
And yes, surgery might give you it instantly, but if you've not changed that part of your life that could still allow you to put weight back on, there was a TV show not so long ago. People had lost some amount of weight and then they went the reverse, put it all back on again. And I remember a guy who had like a full body surgery, tucks, nips, lifts, all sorts. But then he put the weight back on, and now his body's even more deformed than it was before because the skin will only move in certain directions and stuff.
It's really hard, isn't it? I wonder what the sort of optimum time frame is for these things. Of like once you lose weight, if you keep it off, I'm sure there's a statistic where if you keep it off for like a year or 2 years or something, you're 95% likely to keep it off the rest of your life. But the statistics are quite grim when you look at it because it's about sustainability and is it something you do for the rest of your life?
You need to
changing your relationship with food.
Exactly. You need to change every aspect of your lifestyle. You can still be you and still have a life, but you have to change what you're doing with that life.
Yeah. You can't get the new goals
do it
with the same
Monday through
outcome.
Friday and just have every weekend off.
That's it.
Because that's how you were living before.
Yeah. That's absolutely it. So one of the other questions that people wanted to know was, how do you keep the momentum going? And this is why I always wanted to sort of speak to you, I guess, was that for me, it was hard enough losing what I had to lose. So how did you manage to keep the momentum going? What kept you going? What was your reasons why?
Some of the reasons why, I mean, some of the things I remember growing up with my mum with MS was, I remember this after I started losing weight. I'd forgotten about it for a very long time. But because MS they don't know if it's hereditary. She didn't find out until she was in her 40s that she had it. It could be something that I have. But I remember one piece of advice she repeated to me was the doctor said, I just need to eat and live a healthy lifestyle. And that's kind of stuck in me now as part of my journey. But my momentum generally is just, I know I can keep being better. I know I can keep making improvements. I know I'm not perfect. If I was, I would have been a Target member for the last 7 years. I'm not. I've jumped backwards and forwards. If Target was around about a stone range, either side, I'd be perfect. But it's not. And I'm prepared to still keep learning and still keep paying to do it, making those changes.
So what can keep, when you feel like you're struggling or you've fallen off the wagon, you've had a really bad week, what's your advice for sort of getting back to it?
My basics are, and I do have to do this for myself, is I firstly just take it one meal at a time. I can get a day under my belt, I can get a day under my belt. I can move into the next day. And I've built up the ability now that I'm very good at being able to draw a line.
That's a huge turning point, isn't it?
And I say to people, I say to members, say to people on social media, that is not something that's going to happen overnight.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
I was 27 years, so that's 27 years of bad habits and behaviour and lifestyle that has to be changed. And it's taken me 9 years to start building this ability. And I'm good. I'm much better at it. I'm not perfect at it. Some days you just think, now still sod it. If you hit a button, you'll carry hitting the button. And that mentality of, I'll draw a line on weigh day. And I've worked my way to the point I don't like doing that. Why wait for weigh day? Weigh day is not until Saturday. It's only Sunday.
I think a lot of it, sort of social media and stuff as well. We're both we both agree that there's no such thing as on plan and off plan.
No.
It's about having a healthy lifestyle, and you shouldn't demonize food and food groups, and that having a healthy relationship with food is sometimes having a planned indulgence of like a cheeseburger and chips, a dessert, and it's about leaving that where that is. And I think a lot of people, then we all do it, don't we? We've had that, we feel so
never
guilty.
Struggles with their weight, does that without even thinking. I'm going to go out, I'm going to have a nice meal, I go back to how I normally do day to day. But the other thing that helps me with my momentum is I've always broken it down, bit by bit. So when I was first losing weight, that was the biggest thing. I want to get to that next number, I want to get to the next award, but I've always looked at my life and social things. There's always something in the calendar.
Always, there's never a good time.
You can always use an excuse, but I remember my first one was losing that first 2 stone because I didn't want to pay any money back. But then after that, it was going to be my birthday. And then after that, I'd been invited to a friend's wedding. And by the friend's wedding, I said, I want to lose like 5-6 stone because I lost pretty much about 1 stone a month. And I literally missed it by about 2 or 3 pounds, but still went and felt great at this wedding. And then I've done that throughout. So the other week it was, I'm off to the ball. I have to fit in the tux. The tux has fit for 7 years. It will still fit. And then the next thing is... Mini
motivators then, mini events that are coming up
There's
to help
always something.
Yeah.
I've got a friend visiting next weekend. I'm seeing another friend the weekend after that. And then the next big thing is Christmas, when I'll retake my photo with my dad again on that Christmas day, because I do it every year as well as a little memento.
I think that's another one, isn't it? Pictures, looking back for that, isn't it? So a question that other people wanted to know as well. What sort of things do you eat now? And what are your favourite recipes?
There's a few things I don't eat, which I'm not going to say because it makes me pull a face, but everything. I was the piggiest eater. Vegetables for me when I started was a potato, because you could have it in chips. And that's about it.
Chips.
Well, I want SlimmingWorld chips, obviously, before.
Oh, yeah, maybe not before, but yeah.
But any other veg I was forced to eat. So I'd swallow it with a glass of water, peas and sweet corn, carrots, I'd just quickly bite into chunks and down them. And one of my big things was that I could keep trying things. So still do to this day. If I've never given it a go, I'll give it a try. I think I tried artichoke for the first time a couple of months ago. Actually, it was quite nice.
I think that's it. I think when you lose weight, your taste buds start changing, actually. It takes a bit of time, but there's foods that I'll go back to.
Every 7 years.
There we go. That's why then.
Weird science fact.
There'll be things that you don't like and then things that you're like, oh yeah.
But because people always ask about like favourite recipes and stuff like that, and there'll be the odd ones that I do go back to every now and again.
What are some of the ones that you go back to? This is what people want to hear. People are going to go away and start cooking this.
No, there's a recipe in the SlimmingWorld book. It's a classic chicken curry. And it's lovely. It takes lots of herbs and spices and stuff to make it, but it tastes fantastic. And every now and again I'll make it. I do keep a lot of meals simple, but I know there's a seasoning pack at the moment. It's a Louisiana Creole, so it's gumbo.
Not tried that one yet.
That's really nice.
Really good.
And it takes me back to being in New Orleans, which is something I did after I lost weight. My money from winning Greatest Loser, I took myself coast to coast in America by myself. But my biggest thing with food is just keep trying something new. I
think that's it. Mix it up. I mean, some people, if it works for you eating the same thing every day, and you're happy with that, do it.
If you've eaten Weetabix every day for the last 3 years and you just do it because it's autopilot, then why are you eating Weetabix?
Well, that's it.
It's not exciting.
So, do you tend to eat your breakfast, lunch, dinners now? Or you a bit of
I always have 3 meals a day.
3 meals a day.
At least. I do snack in between. I can't get in the car after the supermarket generally without having something in it. So packets of meat, quick, easy fruit to eat, even if I'm only driving around the corner. But it's just a habit. But I'll make sure I make it a good habit at least.
Yeah,
but otherwise, I always have 3 meals a day because I remember my food then.
Yeah.
I sit down to eat it. I remember a member said to me, don't eat on your feet.
That's so true. There's a lot of research
coming out. If you eat on your feet, you forget about it. You never even remember it because you're just generally ramming something in your mouth.
Right, they're finding people that are naturally a healthy weight tend to sit down more for the meals. Even if it's a snack, they tend to plate it and sit down and eat it with a knife and fork. And that's one of the tips. And I really like that.
Yeah.
So momentum going. We've got some of your favourite recipes, what you eat like now. What sort of 3 things would you like to achieve in the next 12 months is a question that we got asked.
So in the next 12 months, I don't massively look too far in the future most of the time. I'd love a holiday. But that's just one of those things. I'm hopefully going to Disneyland. So I love getting on a plane anyway because when I was overweight, I never would. And anybody that's lost weight, everyone does it. Like, oh, look, seatbelt. How much have I got spare? Because I went on holiday once when I was big. I had to have a seatbelt extension, but I'd paid for first class. I'm like, I'm having the seatbelt extension. I don't care. So I'm hoping to go to Disneyland next year with a friend and her family, which again would be a big thing. The one thing that annoys me about America is the rides were set up for big people. I remember when I went to the coast to coast, I went to Universal Studios and I'd not been on a roller coaster in years. since before I'd really gained weight. I was so excited for them to put one of those things over, and they're all like just lap-ons. I was like, oh, I'm so gutted. I'll have to go to somewhere closer.
Alton Towers.
Alton Towers. I don't know. I'll find challenges. I'll find something to do. I'd love to keep progressing my own, like the gym work that I do now. One of that I kind of would like to in the future train to be a PT, because I'd love to show everything that I could put back into it and tie that all alongside it, because I understand both aspects of it all.
I think that's that caring nature in you. I think once you've been through this process, that's why many of us end up becoming consultants ourselves, is that you sort of want to dedicate your life to help make other people happy and share that knowledge. So PT, going on holiday, fitting in the plane and the ride seat's gone one more.
I don't know.
Coming on the show today.
Coming on the show. I've done it then already.
You've done it. 3 things achieved.
Taking over from Holly and Phil.
Oh gosh, I'd love that. Plans. We could do
Joint
that,
plans.
couldn't we? We could be cheeky enough, Holly and Scotty.
I will probably find another challenge. And because I love that whole thing of pushing myself to do something, and I've done so much already that I'd love to just, it needs to be something I'd keep thinking about it. I don't know if I'm prepared to do it yet. I'd love to do a parachute jump.
But
the idea of chucking myself out of a plane is a little bit. Have you done it?
Yeah, I did skydive when I was backpacking in Australia, which was quite a big thing for me. You had to get weighed. Yeah. But luckily I'd managed to lose a bit backpacking, because your skin and you eat peanut butter sandwiches, but that's like it. But yeah, it's amazing. The free fall is just incredible. Like you can't experience. I don't know if I can
put my head around it yet, but it's on the bucket list, let's say.
You know what? The free fall's fine. It's actually propelling yourself out of the plane. Everything in your body is telling you not to do it.
No, there's a long way.
But you know what? That's maybe your next landmark birthday or something as well. And for old Matt, he wouldn't have been able to do it because of the weight. And a bungee, that's cool as well.
No, I don't know about that one.
It'd be good though, because you get weighed for it again. It's another one that you wouldn't have been able to do before. I remember when I got weighed,
I attached to a laggy band and jumped off something is even worse than a parachute. It's quite gentle,
but I remember getting weighed, and again, this was backpacking. I'd lost more, so luckily, but I was the only girl in a group of guys that I was travelling with, and I nearly had to go on the heavier bungee cord, and only one of the lads had to do that, and that for me was whoa, I need to sort stuff out now. So anyway. Words of wisdom then. So closing words of wisdom. So there'll obviously be people listening to this that may be starting their weight loss journey or about to embark on it or maybe struggling. What words of wisdom can you give?
Whatever you're trying to do, embrace it. Make sure you actually follow what it is. Enjoy it. So make sure the variety's there. It's kept interesting. Always approach every day with a positive mental attitude. I'm very big now that you don't get anywhere with a negative attitude. If you're always going to yourself excuses, it's always a but, can't, anything negative, you're not going to get anywhere. And just to never give up. It takes time, but if you put that time into it, I mean, I was saying to you the other weekend, I'm starting to feel old school with this because I've been around for 9 years, and it seems like I've been around forever now. But that's just one of those things that I've dedicated myself to it now. And I'll continue to dedicate myself to it because I know that's what's making the changes. That's what's making the difference. I think that's mainly it. PMA, every day.
And you know what? Everyone I've had on the show pretty much does the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think you can just see that radiating out of people, just the positivity, and it's amazing. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I feel like I've met a bit of an icon in my Slimming World career. So thank you so much for coming on. How can people find you on socials?
Social media, easy things, just search SlimmingWorldBoy. So that's my hashtag given to me by Lorraine Kelly.
By Lorraine Kelly? Get that one quiet. Oh,
yeah. It pops over now and again.
Lorraine.
But if you search SlimmingWorldBoy, it comes up on Instagram. I'm at Matt Briggs on Twitter, but that's linked into my Instagram anyway. And just Matt Briggs on Facebook. You can follow me on there.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. And I'm sure there'll be some people inspired. And you know what? If you listen to this episode and you do end up joining a group and you're successful or you found it interesting, please get in touch and let us know how you get on with that, because we would love to hear if maybe this has inspired another Slimming World boy or Slimming World girl, perhaps. So thank you very much, Matt, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.